So hi guys, my name is Naima Woods. I'm the Vice President of IEEE and the Treasurer of HKN, and I'm gonna run through how to do mock interviews and prepare for interviews for you guys today. So here's some things that you need to do. You need to know your interview. So that means know if there's a behavioral or technical one. If you're behavioral, how you approach answering those questions are very different from how you approach a technical interview. Depending on the format, make sure you have everything set. So a phone interview, make sure your headphones come in clearly. If you have static on the line, it's going to drive a recruiter crazy. So make sure that there's nothing like that actually happening. Try to be in a quiet area. I can't stress this enough. Recruiters do not appreciate having to hear your family in the background and everything while you're there. Now, certain things you can't control, like if your dog barks, then just be honest and be like, "Excuse me, I do apologize for that noise. I have dogs in the background who sometimes act up, and this is just one of those times. I do apologize." If you're on a Zoom call or a video call, have a clean background. Worst case scenario, use the backgrounds that are uploaded there so it looks clean. You don't want a recruiter to see your boxers on the ground or on your bed or anything like that. You want to make sure that everything looks clean and pristine. Meaning, even if the rest of your room is in chaos, whatever your camera picks up needs to be clean. Ensure that your audio is good. How many times have you had on a Zoom call for class where your audio breaks up? So in that scenario, you need to make sure that they can hear you and you can hear them. If you can't hear them or something goes wrong, like I said, please tell the recruiters, hey, I can't hear you, or I'm sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. May I have a moment? Things are bound to happen and can happen during this virtual era. So we need to take all the steps and precautions we can possible to make sure that they are aware of the situation. We're all human. Things are going to happen. It's okay. But you will have to tell them and make them aware. So behavioral interview. These are the most likely to be asked, especially if you're going to be at an internship. So this is usually used so they know who you are as a person and where you stand with the company. So they want to know if you how you tick, what makes you a good candidate. So you always want to give an actual answer that explains yourself. You don't want to give an answer that you think they want to hear. One, because that isn't going to be who they're going to work with. And two, you might hate the company if you're something other than yourself when you get there. So, when you're using for behavioral questions, you can draw inspiration from course clubs and organizations that you've been a part of, classes that you have taken, your personal life, your jobs, but most importantly, just always use the STAR method. And what is the STAR method, you may ask? It's a method of storytelling. When you listen to someone, you don't want to hear someone spit out facts to you. You want to actually be engaged with it. You're more likely to listen to a story than you are to a person saying, "Oh, well, at my job, I did this, this, and this." Well, how are we going to connect to you as a person? So the STAR method helps it makes sense, and you're not rambling off random answers. And it's all right to take a moment to think of the question if you need time to think of the situation. No one ever expects you to just have it right off the top of your head. There are some questions that they will ask that will stump you, and it's okay to say, "Hi, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question? I want to make sure that I understand what you're saying." Take that time when they're repeating it and you're clarifying to really think of what you're going to say, and you want to ask for a moment to answer if you can't think of it, and go, "Hi, I'm sorry, I need a moment to think of a proper answer. Can you please give me a second?" And then the thing is, you try to answer it within 2 minutes of because the human attention span isn't that long. 2 minutes should be enough. And do not forget the question they're asked when you're answering it. That looks so bad when you ask them they ask you a question and you're like, "Oh, wait, what did I just do?" So what is the STAR method? The STAR method is a way of storytelling, right? So this really gives you a background and a visual of what you're doing. The first step always is to prepare. So you have to listen to the question, and organize yourself. Even if it takes 15, 20 seconds, 5 seconds to 8 is preferable. But if you need to take 10 to 20, it happens. Really break it down into what is the situation or task, right? So if never it's never both, by the way. It's situation or a task. So situation, what is the background? Where does this problem come from? Task, what was it you were trying to accomplish? The action, what did you do to make it better? What did you do to resolve it? So what were you doing? And the results, especially as an engineer, they want to hear the results. Emphasize the results. It's like a joke. You always leave the punchline to the end, right? So you want to make sure that's in there, or your joke just isn't as funny. Same thing with the results. You need the result in there so you can have a full story. And if you're an engineer and you know the numbers, plug them into your results. They like hearing the numerical values of what you're doing. My bad. So a technical one. So anyone who's ever interviewed for a CE role, an EE, a CS, we all know that these technical interviews happen, especially the infamous whiteboard presentations where they will ask you to program or do something on a whiteboard in front of them so they can ask those type of questions to see where you are knowledge based on these. The most important thing to know is, one, if you're allowed not to know exactly what you're doing, but they want to see that you're logicking through it and how you think. So focus more on the methodology more than the results. Obviously, if you get the proper results, and if you can get the proper results, that's the goal. But the methodology matters a lot more to these recruiters. Use LinkedIn Learning. It's free for us. We pay it in tuition money anyways. Use LinkedIn Learning. They have Python, Java, any language that you can think of, they have. Use it. It's your best friend. I promise you. And find out prior to the interview, if you can, what language you may need to use. So in some interview cases, they'll give you the choice of deciding which interview questions, or not interview questions, what type of language you will get to use. So if you know for a fact that you're stronger at Python versus C, use Python. If you don't get the choice, use LinkedIn Learning and figure out what you need to learn in that short period of time to learn what you need to do. And if you're asked a question and you don't know, talk your interviewers through the logic. Like I said, ask questions to clarify. An engineer is never supposed to be able to just jump in and just go off what they say. We're always supposed to try to guess more. So always ask more questions on top of what they gave you. And if you take it at face value, say, I'm taking you at your word, but it can also be taken in this way. Things you want to do. Research. If you've gone to any of the FCA events that have happened recently, or anything where Sergio gets to speak, who is a recruiter for Fiat Chrysler Automotives, you know that he's going to stress research, research, research. And it's one of those things that you have to do to stand out. It's a low-hanging fruit that is there for the picking. So you can look up a interviewer through LinkedIn. They kind of expect you to. This is so you can ask more technical background questions and just ask more about what they're doing. Research the company, things that aren't on Wikipedia. So find out what's new about them. Figure out what the news is saying about them. Look at the reports. Generate a better idea of who they are and what they're doing. Another thing that you can do is research the active projects, the company values, the reasons you like the company, like correlate that with their values and what they're working on. Positions you're interviewing for. Please, please, please do not go to an interview and don't know what the job title and description that you're interviewing for actually entails. If you don't know what it entails, you're wasting the recruiter's time. And look up competitors. Maybe you don't like something about a company. Like, let's say, for example, if I were interviewing for a position at Ford, I might not know much about Ford, but maybe if I can talk about their competitors and be like, well, I know GM is making this new electrical vehicle. It's supposed to hit in 2022 with the new Cadillac electrical. What do you think of this? And then focus back on to Ford, or like, well, I know you guys make the Mustang, and the Mustang has been one of your top sellers for years. How do you keep that? You can always talk about different things. Now, those aren't necessarily questions you have to ask, but those are just ideas of what you could. So when talking to a recruiter, be yourself. One, they're trained to know when you're not. Like if you're lying to them, they can usually pick it out. Another thing is be personable. If you're gonna want to work with this company, they know the values are there. They know what people are like. They know what teams are gonna be like when you're talking to them. You want to be able for them to see a person, not just a student. If you're on a phone call or a Zoom interview, always greet everyone. Address them by their name. Answer the questions when they ask you a question. Like, oh, I think it was Roberto who asked me this question. So thank you, Roberto, for your question. This is what I think is the best way. Always address them. And I know it's when you're an engineer, especially when you're nervous, when they're talking about the technical stuff, when you're nervous or passionate, you can come out like, wait, but what about this, and this? Take a break, take a breath. Don't interrupt them. Let them finish talking. It's extremely rude to cut them off, but we're gonna let them talk, and then we're gonna join the question afterwards. Like, okay, because you mentioned this, this is what I wanted to ask you about, and then have a conversation. Ask them questions and let them know you're interested in them. Like, ask them about things that you can't find on Google. Ask them why they're there. Ask them what are ways, did their career get to this point? Finding those questions out makes it more personal. So, and another thing is don't waste their time. We're all people, we all have things that we need to do. People do not appreciate when your time is wasted. So, and always ask to exchange information once you're done. This can be asking them for their LinkedIn or their email, but always use the word exchange. It puts you on the same level as them. It's not transactional, it's reciprocated through both ends. So that's you trying to get to know them and them getting to know you. And send a thank you note 24 hours later, at least. So you don't want to do it like 10 minutes right after the GMIS conference, for example. You don't want to do it like 10 minutes after. You want to take that recruiter's information. You want then the next day, hey, I was thinking about how this impacted me and how you and I talked about the propulsion of the new F-35 jet for Lockheed Martin. I found it really interesting. Thank you for your time, and if we can talk further about these events, I would highly appreciate it. Best regards, enter your name. So that's just a one way that you can get that connection with someone without having to make it weird. And last but not least, ask your questions. Have at least 5 questions you may want to ask the interviewer after the interview ends, right? Have them written down, have them somewhere. Have at least 5. Even if they're general questions, have 5. You do not want to ask a bad question. They just spent 30 minutes to 45 minutes talking to you. And for people who are shy, especially, that's a long time. So even just ask them about the company, ask them about anything. If they emphasize anything during the interview, hit on those points. Oh wow, I realized that during the interview that you were talking about the supply chain disruptions due to COVID-19. Do you think that the supply chain will be more operational in the next 15 to 10, 20 months, or do you think that it would be sooner? Pinpoint the questions that they or things that they emphasize and ask questions about that. It makes you look like you're more interested. And ask at least 3 questions. It's extremely rude not to ask a question. Like I said, you don't want to waste your time. And if you don't ask the questions, you're more than likely not to go and get another shot with them. So ask questions. Things to avoid. Please avoid cursing. Please don't curse on an interview. It looks extremely unprofessional And a lot of people get bothered by that. So please avoid it if you can. You don't want to come off like you're not confident. You don't want to come off arrogant either. So it's a very hard and thin line. So at the end of the day, you're in the position because you know your stuff. That you did your stuff in school. You did as much as you could. Now you're just trying to show that company that. So if you can't even present yourself, what makes you think that a company is going to buy something that you're not willing to properly sell? So you need to sell yourself as someone who believes in their ability, not only both technical, but also your soft skills. Like you can communicate, like you can interact with someone, like you're someone that they can actually envision working with. I'm sorry, a 4.0 GPA is not enough anymore. You need to be able to have those personal skills. People want people that they can see themselves hanging out with and that they can connect with. They don't want a robot. Please avoid dressing unprofessionally, especially in this day and age where they can ask you to FaceTime or do something like that. That's all I'm gonna say. Don't wear boxers and a suit top, for example, and a suit, and have to move because they will see your legs when you have to get up if you have to get up on camera, and that's gonna be very awkward to explain to a recruiter. I wouldn't know, but one of you guys can tell me if you make the mistake how bad that goes. Um, don't have a messy background. You don't want anything that could take away from you talking to the recruiter. You don't want anything that will catch their attention more than you. You don't want anything that will throw them off. So make sure to always keep your background clean. Please don't stalk your recruiters. I know I said to research them on LinkedIn. That's as far as you need to go. Don't go on their anything other than their LinkedIn. Don't go on Facebook. Don't go on Instagram. Don't go on Twitter. That will creep a recruiter out. Even though you do want to get personal with them, not that personal. Please keep it professional. Don't go in unprepared. Um, have a portfolio notebook to refer to with notes about the company. Have things ready that you can go to and research you have done in a little area so you can refresh yourself and be ready for an interview. And also know your resume. You need to know your resume. Anything on there is fair game. If they ask you a question and you don't know it, it just looks like, oh, they're lying about what they're doing. And don't lie on your resume either. Don't say, for example, for me, I'm vice president of IEEE. Don't say you're the president when you're the vice president. One, if, for example, Roberto were to interview right after me, all right, one of you two is lying, and it's going to be pretty obvious who is lying when they go on the IEEE website. But on top of that, there's no benefits of lying. They want to get to know you, and if you're lying to them on an interview, they're just going to think that you can't be trusted. So, that is it for the presentation. Does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you guys. If you guys joined late, so what we're going to do is now we're gonna try to get you guys in different Zoom calls, um, and that you can click on through here and then stay in this Zoom as well. And we will be doing mock interviews with you guys. Thank you for your time.